a lot of folks actually can't necessarily work from home, and production has stopped. So on that note, for businesses that are trying to work in this uncertain time, um, do you have any tips for people who are working, working at home to try to stay productive in the plant and production if it is paused due to this coronavirus outbreak?
Well, as you know, I'm currently in this situation myself. While manufacturing is stopped temporarily, construction and basic maintenance tasks are still ongoing. At this time, we're allowing one maintenance tech to come in during the day to go through a list of safety checks for the facility and equipment as both failure finding effort and to keep the equipment in a state of readiness for when we do start back up. We're figuring it out as we go, as much as anyone else right now. And while at home, I've learned 2 new card games with my son and trying new recipes, getting the backlog of chores my wife has had for me. And, procrastination's still real. But as far as tips for others, if you're able to be at your place of employment while still practicing social distancing, now would be the great time to get some hands-on experience with guidance from the more senior individuals on the job. The tasks that they never have time to train you on because a piece of equipment's down, you're trying to get it back up real quick. That's the ones I'm talking about. Most places probably have some components sitting around in need of repair, some expired lubricants that need to be properly disposed of. And things are much quieter in the plant right now, and it's a perfect time to go out and find some air leaks. And cleaning and disinfecting is always a good idea, especially right now. And cleaning, as you know, is a big part of the autonomous maintenance pillar of TPM and a big part of preventive maintenance. So deep clean some of that equipment and operating stations, find impending failures, oil leaks, coolant leaks, etc. And any healthy manufacturing plant will have about 2 weeks of a backlog. And so that's kind of a coincidence that we're pretty much all staying home for about 2 weeks in most places. So tackle those items that'll be the biggest impact on the safety, cost savings, and reliability. Audit the inventory, do a count, make sure everything's accurate. Take the time to reassess the quantity. Sell or return the parts that are now obsolete at your facility. Make sure you have enough tools. And one example of this is when I worked at the horizontal infrastructure shop in the military. There were several times we went to get tools for the asphalt crew and wound up only having one shovel that wasn't broken in half, and nobody bothered to tell anybody. So it was a bit of a surprise and set us back a little bit, sent us scrambling. Use a slower pace to plan for when things pick back up, or plan for larger projects that can be completed during this time. Projects which will increase reliability and resilience mostly. Calibrate, torque, align the hard to access motors and instruments. With the decreased traffic, if materials are available, now would be a good time to fill those potholes, repair the sidewalks, fix the drainage systems, or do something about that trail that's eroding. And while things are slow, it would also be a good time to update your documents such as flow charts, SOPs, PM tasks, precision maintenance procedures, contingency plans. And this might be a new one for most places, and we'll definitely get some good lessons learned from this going forward. So be proactive and keep daily notes on challenges, successes, and suggestions in case this or something similar happens again in the future. A colleague at a power plant mentioned that they had been stocking up food and necessary items so that someone could be sequestered at the plant if the need arises. For critical facilities such as that with a high consequence of failure, I think this would be a good idea going forward. Perhaps with your team, do some benchmarking and gap analysis for the department. Getting the whole team involved will increase buy-in and also help those on the front line understand what goes on behind the curtain, so to speak. Perhaps even get in touch with some production and operations folks and ask them to think about any concerns or issues they've noticed. Have the new maintenance guy walk around and note anything that doesn't seem right. So these new eyes and perspectives can see the issues that have existed a long time that others have just become so used to seeing that it's just wallpaper, basically. In addition to getting the maintenance folks some hands-on training, conduct TPM training with the operators. They can use this opportunity to ask knowledgeable folks some good questions and get some answers that are less rushed. Perform the TPM with the operators if you want, so they can point out concerns, oversights, and make suggestions for improvements. And as I mentioned before, documentation. Since the inventory turns will be much lower during this time, make sure that all sensitive items such as lubricants, desiccants are stored by the manufacturer standards. Some places have turned off the ACs, the dehumidifiers, and these can affect items in storage. Be sure that these documents are clear and in good condition, not covered with grease or anything while they're hanging up. Make sure a list of startup and shutdown procedures have been communicated to all the affected individuals, such as production and equipment operators, maintenance personnel, etc. If you're unable to work, YouTube is still around. Sharpen your skills as well as your tools. Stay up to date and flexible. Listen to the Masterminds and Maintenance podcast. Catch up on the latest trends and technologies in your field. Read a book on a methodology that you totally are unfamiliar with, and then add that to your resume. If you're unfortunately out of work, Ryan has developed a virtual job board for those seeking employment. There are also plenty of recruiters out there looking for talented and experienced folks from many different backgrounds. And if you're in Tennessee or Nashville area or thinking of relocating here, feel free to message me on LinkedIn and I'll do my best to put you in touch with recruiters that are hiring right now.
Wow. Thank you so much, Greg, for all of that. You know, to all of our listeners, if we were wondering, hey, what should we be doing during this time? I think Greg just gave us another 3 years of work just now. No, that's so good and so great to all of our listeners, because I think my main takeaways from you, Greg, is that yes, we may have some downtime, but that doesn't mean don't work. That doesn't mean don't stay productive. I think a lot of what I heard was training others, getting trained in education, optimizing your backlog and things that you've always been wanting to do, but you've been pushing off. Maybe the fourth one just centers around like this idea of knowing that your facilities is going to get back up and running at some point, making sure that you are prepared and the company is prepared when that day happens, making sure that we stay prepared and we're proactive about all of that. These are all things that we can start doing today. So thank you so much there, Greg. There's so much good stuff that you just mentioned for all of our listeners.